to do last. Okay, we are live.
This is Literary Roadhouse, one short story once a week. I'm Christy Lynn Billooney.
I'm Gerald.
I'm Maya.
I'm Rami.
I know, but we already did it. So, Anise.
Oh, I'm Anise. I didn't hear Rami. I didn't hear him.
Okay, let's do that again.
From the
top.
From the
Sorry,
top?
Christy.
That's okay.
I didn't hear him.
Christy, me, Rami, Maya, Anise.
Yeah. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
If you get out of order, just keep going.
I'm so glad I'm first.
Yeah.
All right. This is Literary Roadhouse, one short story once a week. I'm Christy Lynn Billooney.
And I'm Gerald.
I'm Rami.
And I'm Maya.
And I'm Anise.
Yeah, I didn't hear Rami either. You can fix that and post Anise.
Yeah, I got everyone's voice once. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Gerald?
Are you going to introduce the guest?
Okay. You want me to introduce her before we introduce the story?
Yeah.
Okay. This week we have a really special guest. If you have been online in the literary world for the last few years, you may have run into an amazing website called sexygrammar.com. We have the web mistress of that lovely website. We have the sexy grammarian on today, and she is going to be reading and discussing the story with us. Gerald, what story are we discussing this week?
Okay, this week we are discussing a story from Carve magazine. Hurrah! And it's called Measures of Time by Andrea Eberly. If you've not read the story yet, please pause the podcast, go and read the story, and return. In the story, we see into the lives of Paul and Henrik at the time of Paul's birthday and the arrival of his daughter and ex-wife. The story is told in 3 acts, setting the scene in Paul and Henrik's apartment, the discussions with his daughter, Catherine, which reveals the backstory of Paul and his ex-wife, Andrea, and the party itself. Throughout the story, the theme of time is repeated through differing examples, and we see the anxieties of Paul during the preparations for the party. And one key moment occurs during the party which brings to the fore the theme of time and the role of Paul as a father.
That was a wonderful summary, Gerald. You're always so good at that. So top level, we always like to stop top level, as you know, Christy. Just basic, how did you like the story? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Like, just initial thoughts.
Top level, I loved this story, actually. It's the kind of story that I will probably read a few more times and dissect to try to figure out how the author did what she did.
Excellent. And Gerald?
Yeah, I liked it too.
Of course you liked it. It's Carve.
Yeah, obviously. I like other things too sometimes. I liked this sort of straightforwardness, the simplicity. I like the themes, and I enjoyed the characters, and so well drawn.
Okay, and Remy?
I liked it. I'm not one to reread stories, but I will remember it, I think.
Okay. Well, that says something because, remembering a story is half the battle. Anise?
Yeah, I think based on what we were all saying in Slack and here, I think I'm the one who maybe liked it the least. So I want you guys to help convince me to like it more than I do. It's like
or vice versa.
Or vice versa. It's like technically I see the strengths and I see the talent, and yet it didn't do it for me. So for some reason, even if technically I can see the good points, the highlights.
I actually completely agree with you, Anise. There's the structure of the story I was really interesting. I thought that the way the story was configured was really interesting. I found the story itself had merit and was something interesting, but I definitely felt like there was something missing and I wasn't quite able to put my finger on what it was. It's a story that I was like, okay, I like that. Okay, there were certain points where I was like gripped at the edge of my seat, but it wasn't like my favorite story or a story that I would refer back to. And I'm not even sure I would really remember the story after a week.
Yeah.
Wow. Harsh.
Yeah, that's not harsh. I don't remember most stories after a week.
So that's you rather than the story.
Thank you very much, Gerald. That's why we have you here. Somebody has to heckle me.
I'm I'm upset already because usually when I'm listening, I agree with Anais and Maya. So I feel like I'm sitting on the wrong side of the room already.
No, you're sitting
I
on the
love
right
it.
side of the room.
You know what? The boys often need help, so having
Okay.
you on their side is probably a good thing. They're probably glad to have that extra vote to push it over.
Yes.
Excellent. I will try to step up for that.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just start diving deeper into the story. For me, the thing that stood out most about the story was the actual structure of the story. Gerald, you mentioned the use of time. Do you have any particular thoughts about how time was used in the story?
Yeah, I think as I said in the summary, it was the story was told in sort of 3 acts, and all the throughout the story, throughout the sort of Henrik's obsession with time and the metronome, this idea of time keeps coming back and coming back throughout the story. So I quite like the idea that the metronome is sort of it's an object to keep you focused on the theme. So I liked how that was done, and it kept
One of the
coming
things that
back
I found interesting, because it didn't really click that it was written in 3 acts, but it totally was. I mean, it's essentially a 3-act play in miniature, but the use of time is not just, the structure as far as the acts, but the sentences. The sentence structure has this tick, tick, tick quality throughout the entire story that was really fascinating to read. But after a point in time, right around the end of Act 2, it started to wear on me. Annie's just shaking her head. And the other thing I thought was really interesting was the beginning of the story really starts out with time. So what is he doing at the beginning of the story? He's sitting on the toilet, he's smoking a cigarette, and Henrik interrupts him, and he's got the metronome and puts it in the bathroom because Henrik literally times everything, including like sex and how long they've been working in the garden. Like, he's OCD about it. Literally, not like figuratively. He has OCD, and he uses his obsession with time in his job. And then we see time reflected back, not just through the metronome, but also through the timepiece that Henrik gives him. We see it there. We see it, the timing of like the cooking that the daughter's doing. She's having to cook, and it's stated later on, are you going to have enough time to do that? And then the sense of time going back to when he was living in East Berlin. I thought that was really well done. I honestly think that's the strength of the story. If that hadn't been as well done, then I probably would have given this story like a 2.
Yeah, though I'd push back. Like, I agree with the technical use of time was great for reminding you of the theme, and yet for me, it didn't. There was no. I struggled to connect with the story emotionally. I struggled to connect with what it was saying about time emotionally, and there was many times where I felt like all these clever devices that were being used in the structure, the ticking of the clock, the sudden zoom in of certain descriptions that she would do. She would like sharply, and then it was like. But it almost felt like it was trying to force me to feel something, and it didn't actually bring me there. And then I think I would chafe at that rubbing. Like, it was like petting me to like, do you feel this yet? And then I was like, you're petting me the wrong way. I'm not there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I understand.
You working really hard.
Cats.
So that's really not where my head went, but
Yeah.
okay, sexy grammarian.
Well, I mean, I think I understand what you both are saying, that basically it was a little heavy-handed with the time thing. And I did find myself feeling that way, especially on the second read-through. I would find myself wondering sort of why she made certain decisions, and then realizing, oh, that's about time too. And that, and it's with the metronome in the beginning, it's very like, do you, like you're saying, do you feel me petting you? Do you get it? This is about time. And I would say that that is really my only critique of the story. Is overall, I think it could have done with like another round of editing. Like, it just needed to be lightened up. Overall, it worked for me, but there were other things that from like a sort of nitpicky point of view that I went, I wish this had one more pass through by a good editor. I noticed, for instance, early on, the writer used the verb pull in a really interesting way. talking about goosebumps, that the goosebumps pulled from, I think, Paul's arm. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting use of the word pull. But then throughout the rest of the story, the verb pull got used in interesting ways, like half a dozen times. And I went, oh, this is a pet word for the writer.
Is it
And
that word, or is it part of, again, what the message she's trying to give?
Maybe, but either way, I think it's a sign that it could have used one more pass through to remove some of the heavy handedness, either with language or time.
Okay.
But otherwise, I love it.
My question, like, you know, do you have any thoughts about how time was used in this story?
All right, so I see the comment about it being sort of heavy-handed. I didn't really pick up on that too much, but I thought that something else was a little shoved in your face. But
okay.
And this is from like a more macro level. What is fascination or fixing with Germany? Because so this short story is set in Germany, but in the author's introduction, it says she is currently revising a novel in 1990s Germany. And on top of that, throughout the story, so Paul was reading Der Spiegel magazine. Henrik happens to be working on a Brothers Grimm documentary, and it's, I mean, and I understand, you know,
and the striped socks and
appreciate, yeah, and there's just like, I appreciate being clear on where we are in the setting and everything, but I think just mentioning the nearby town's name or something may have been enough. And there was just a lot of these things that were like, okay, we're in Germany. This is Germany.
I actually agree with you, Remy. I like the fact that it was written in Germany, but one of the things that I like about stories that are set in a specific place is that I like stories that don't rely on the stereotypes, that rely on tiny details that you wouldn't necessarily get unless you were there. And when she described Paul as wearing striped socks with Birkenstocks, that is a stereotype of Germans when they travel. It's kind of a little bit true. Like, I've heard travelers, like Australians especially, they're like, I can always tell the Germans because they're the ones with the Birkenstocks and socks. Like, it's a thing that's said in hostels. And it was so just low-hanging fruit and not creative. And that's what I found about the Germany references. It wasn't so much the number of them, but I found them uncreative and uninspiring. For me, the time wasn't heavy-handed. For me, the emotions were underhanded, which made the time references really have to carry the entire story. Me and Annie's have talked about this before. Not all stories have to be emotional, but if you don't have emotion, you have to have something else that holds the reader. And this story didn't really dive into the emotions. And so time had to step up to carry the whole story. I feel like this male's emotions around turning his brother in, around turning 40, having growing up in East Berlin, having his daughter there, you know, with the mom and, you know, dealing with all this stuff. I feel like, yes, men tend to, you know, they're a little locked up on the outside, but they still have an emotional depth on the inside. And as a female writer, I think sometimes we do tend to not give men the full range of emotions when we're writing men. And I feel like that's the case here. I feel like if we had better understanding of Paul's emotions and if his character was stronger, then the time references wouldn't feel so heavy-handed.
That's, yeah, I can see that that's possible. Just one thing about the location, as the only European in the group, this Berlin shtick is a big thing. The East and the West and the split and the references to East Berlin. It's a huge thing in Germany. So so for me, you know, I didn't find them irritating or overused. I think it's important to the.
It is important to the story. But do you feel like it could have been better done, or do you feel like it was fine?
Oh, it's fine. Yeah,
to me, I feel like it could have been done in a more creative way. To me, this was like the East Berlin version of driving through, you know, Maine countrysides after the death of your parents.
Oh dear.
I did feel like I had to really, like, some of the cultural things I was being exposed to, like the Birkenstocks and the striped socks, I could, as an American, go, oh yeah, Germany. But also there were other things that I felt like I was really learning something about this East-West split and generational split. There were two moments where people didn't get jokes. One where, yeah, and with both of them, I had to really think, and then I got it, and the joke made me feel like I understood something about time or generations or East Germany a little bit better, or the split between generations, people who were born before the wall dropped and people born after. So I don't know. I think that I felt like I was learning things about a culture that to me is exotic, that I don't know anything about. So I'm not sure about the German being that piece being too sort of cliche. I think there were some cliches there, some low-hanging fruit maybe for folks. Maybe there's some on both levels. But then also, I really have to disagree about the closeness and the emotion for Paul. I thought Paul was I felt very close to Paul. Did you, Maya? You did not feel
I did not. I felt like I was watching his emotions from a distance, but I needed that gap closed.
And the point, because to me, the point of view, that third person, but with very, very tight sympathy to Paul, where we are getting all of his thoughts and nobody else's throughout, I felt like that was really beautifully done. And it made me feel like I went on that sort of, 3-act journey with him, and I felt that sense of intensity in the relationships with all of the package unwrapping at about the 3/4 way through. I remember feeling like, oh my God, so much emotion in the room, and really, like when he closes the book after seeing the picture of his brother,
that was intense.
It was intense. That's what I wrote next to that. So, and I thought that happened because of masterful use of point of view that gave me an inside view of Paul's emotions, even though Paul may be the kind of man who doesn't show them very often.
Yeah, you said something that reminded me when I was reading this in the cafe at that moment when he opened up the baby book. I actually gasped a little bit.
Yeah.
And the man I'm traveling with was like, what, is it that good? I was like, this part is.
Yeah. So that's where they brought it. That's where the reader or the writer really brought it, I think.
Yeah.
On the emotional level for you even as well. Yeah.
Yeah, though I'd say so I felt like at all times there was an intense sort of level of emotion. I could feel his anxiety, I could feel his sadness, but what was missing for me, and I think this is what I mean when I'm saying I felt rubbed the wrong way or in places, was I understand he's feeling really intense emotions right now, even if he's not showing them to the other characters, but I don't fully grasp why. Why is he feeling this way particularly right now? There was something missing that I couldn't tease out, so that it felt a little bit like feel this with me. Do you see all these emotions? I'm like, yeah, but why? Why am I here? That's the part that I think left me feeling a little unsettled.
I'm wondering, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, could it be because of his birthday?
Right. That's what it was for me.
Yeah. That's the assumption. But why? Still, okay, birthdays are rough, but is it like a...
Well, you haven't turned 40 yet.
I was just going to say, Anais looks really young.
Yeah.
That was actually my question. I'm curious. How old was Anais and Rami when the wall fell? Were you guys alive yet?
This was 1990 or 92? No, 1989? When was it?
I think it was 89. Yeah, you guys were alive.
Sounds right to
were just really
me.
little.
Tiny baby.
89?
You were a tiny baby. I was watching it in high school.
Me too. Me too. Wrapped.
Yes, it was a really big deal when it fell. Yeah. We were just like, we're watching history.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And Gerald's like, I'm not going to tell you guys where I was.
Yeah, I was picking up my old age pension at the time. Yeah.
There was something else. Oh, go ahead. Finish.
No, go ahead.
There was something else that was depicted as a personal problem within the family that I thought was a commentary on some larger issue, which was the fact that, how do you pronounce the mother's name? Auntie?
Auntie, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Or something.
And sure, we'll go with that. So the fact that she wasn't able to have children, and then Catherine, the daughter, says that the brother didn't have
she
kids
assumes
either,
it's
and then she says our family's a river in reverse, getting narrower and littler until there'll be just me.
That really stuck with me.
And
that
I think
line.
it might be a commentary on the population problems in Germany too.
Yeah,
Because
I thought that was a beautiful line, Rami. I'm glad you brought that up. That really was a beautiful line. It also spoke to the miscommunication in the family, and I think you see that in a lot of families. You know, like people that are descendants of families that have gone through wars or gone through, you know, the Holocaust, or, you know, there's a generational gap where there's not a lot of communication going on, where people just don't talk about stuff. And you see that in this family where there's all these little things that are miscommunicated because they're not actually talking. I thought that was really fascinating and well done. You guys are making me like the story more than I started out. Dang you.
And it's quite interesting that at one point Paul was talking about the East and asked if Andrea has still got her passport, like he has, his old East German passport, together with some money, and so he's holding on to, you know, part of his history in the East. And I've actually visited Berlin and travelled to the East when there still was a wall, and unless you've sort of felt it, you can't understand what a huge divide, a huge physical and mental divide was. And then when it came down, it was just sort of wonderful
I
feeling.
would think it would have been wonderful, but a lot of chaos because of the two cultures at that point. Like, that wall divided families. There were families that hadn't seen each other in, you know, years. And so I would think that when that wall came down, it probably, along with the elation, came with a lot of drama and chaos.
But obviously I think we see that Paul is holding on to some love for the East that he's now lost.
What do you think that is, Gerald? Why do you think he's still holding on?
Maybe because he felt that it gave him an identity, and it was where he was brought up. It was where he was born and brought up. So he's holding on to that as part of his background and who he is.
Yeah, I personally, I think it has to do with the fact that he turned his brother in, and at that point, part of him just died a little bit inside. And I think that reflects back to the comment about the piano. When you make a mistake, you just keep pushing through. But pushing through is not living. And that's what I see him as doing. Like, at that moment, he's really kind of stopped living and just kind of pushing through.
Yeah, good point.
Oh gosh, now I'm depressed.
Gave him an opportunity to study and pursue his career.
And when the daughter was choking on the tomato, did you guys at any point believe she might actually die? I don't know why I felt so removed from this. At no point did I think she was actually at risk. So I actually found that section a little like, okay, let's get through the part where she doesn't die. You know, like,
I didn't feel like she was going to die.
I genuinely thought she might.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I thought the title Measures of Time might be okay if it was just a few seconds later, we might have saved her, that type of thing.
Yeah, I didn't think she would die just because there's so many people there. When you have choking deaths, usually it's not when you're surrounded by people that actually recognize you're choking. It's usually you're choking and nobody recognizes the signs. The fact that somebody recognized the signs told me that she was going to make it. But, you know, I actually liked how drawn out it was, like that visceral feeling of trying to save your child. It felt really real to me. And the how it kind of slowed down, you know, in an emergency, everything kind of slows down. I really appreciated that, which goes again to the use of time in the story again. Like, time is really played with in this story.
That's what I mean again by some things are technically good, but emotionally not. And I saw she was slowing down time, but in the end, not much time at all had passed. It had been seconds, but it felt longer for everyone, for the characters and for the reader. And yet at no point was I concerned. There's this weird disconnect.
Wow. Yeah, this story totally just didn't connect with you.
But I don't, do you think that you needed Anais to believe that the daughter, that Catherine might die in order to feel the emotion of the moment? Because to me, that moment captured exactly what that kind of tension, fear, the absurdity. And she even says, imagine dying from a caprese salad. Like, nobody in that room, including Paul, and we're getting his internal voice, nobody really thinks she's going to die. That would be the big awful of it if she did die. But it is still a scary, awkward moment where everything stops and slows down. And to me, feeling that awkwardness, I didn't have to believe she might die to feel something. I still felt that moment where they all three came together. I thought that was also a really interesting point of view moment, because it was the only time I think in the story where the point of view sort of zoomed out from Paul's head and told us that it would also be the last time they would hug for forever or for many years or something. And so I mean, I agree. Everything slowed down. She used that little trick of changing the point of view for half a second to something more godlike, omniscient. And I felt all of that awkwardness that happens when someone almost absurdly dies, but nobody really believes it will, and then it's over. It was really effective.
Two emotional beats in the story for me. One is this scene, and the other one was the scene with the baby book. Those were the two moments where I did actually have emotions. And that's why I'm having a really hard time with the story, where I'm like, it doesn't quite work for me, but I can't really put my finger on why. You know, because those two emotional beats are really strong and intense for me. Like, they were
climaxes.
They were excellently done. They were expertly done. Like, the structure is well done. The writing technically is well done. I mean, this is the epitome for me and Annie's of it's well written. You know, like it's well written, and we don't like it, and we can't necessarily say why.
I mean, as Christy was just speaking, I think I finally figured out in my head why it's not working for me. Okay. And it's like, and you're right. It's not that I needed to feel that she might die. I think it's more than anything else. It's as I was reading it, it's like I'm seeing all the scaffolding to put the story together too much. It's a little bit like my boyfriend who does film. When you're watching a film, so I can tell when he's not into it, when he'll be like, oh, they changed the frame ratio suddenly. Oh, they changed the filter. And I'm like, are you enjoying the movie? Because you're just going through, like, you know, he'll be like, oh, the frame rate's different on this one. And I'm like, I was doing that too much. I think that's why I didn't.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think we run into this sometimes, I think, Christy, especially because we read so many short stories now, that the easy tricks, the low-hanging fruit, they don't impress you. They come out like a neon sign now because we've read it so many times. And there are so many amazing stories that just, it has to be really, really good now just because we've read so many amazing stories. You know, if I was looking at stories to recommend to somebody new to short stories, I probably would put this in the list. I probably would. Anais, would you?
I don't know. There was something, again, that felt a little heavy-handed model. You know how we haven't talked about this in a while, but when we talk about when things feel a little MFA'd to death, this had that feeling a little bit in place. Especially the beginning, the opening with the sudden zoom-ins before you even know who the characters are. In the very beginning. Yeah.
Like that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a technically good story, and I think somebody that doesn't read a whole lot of short stories wouldn't necessarily see all that scaffolding.
Yeah.
I think I like to see the scaffolding as a teacher. A little bit, just enough for it to be accessible. And to me, this story, it didn't do it in an obnoxious way where I'm like, oh my God, I can see backstage completely. Just a peek now and then that I'm like, ooh, there are really actors behind that curtain. It is kind of sexy to me if I can see a little bit.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's really interesting, and definitely, one of the things when you're reading short stories, where you're coming from makes such a big difference. And you totally are going to have a different view on short stories than we will, because you are a teacher. You do deal a lot with like the technicalities and stuff, and seeing beautiful technical writing probably like totally gets your jam going.
Yes.
Whereas Annie's really gets going with like a lot of emotion. She wants to feel those characters, forget where she's at in the moment, feel the room fall apart as she like is in that story. That's what gets her jam going. I think it's really fascinating.
I have a question that I'm just wondering if I missed something, or if this is an interesting big irony in the story. But did anyone feel confident that they knew where when the actual story is taking place in time, or how old the daughter is?
She was a baby when the Berlin Wall fell.
We've got that.
Okay.
But
so
is she
like in my head,
or 20 or 13?
It was kind of wishy-washy. I figured she was probably like 15 or 16. It was really wishy-washy. Like,
it was
enough to make dinner for her dad and for her mom to show up when she's invited.
Right.
But still not an adult.
And there are
she was at that precipice of becoming a woman.
Right. There are lots of hints dropped. There's something about her baby fat being lost. There's
and
something about her voice lowering, and that she can still make a little girl voice. But they're never, so they drop lots, and they give us an exact, she was in utero when the wall came down. So we can all look that up, right? But we don't actually know, for a story that's all about time, I was never completely sure if I was looking at a preteen. She could be anywhere from preteen to young adults.
No,
I had her 18 in my head. I had her like 17.
Yeah, I had like 15, 16 in my head.
No, I had a much younger. She's 12, something like that, 11, 12.
So we're all in different.
She shows up at mom's house with groceries without mom.
She could have been 20.
Yeah, she could have been. She could have been. I had her at 18, but none of us have any.
This is fascinating. This is fascinating. That was a good.
Because you're not talking about baby fat at 20.
No.
Maybe.
No, because the dad talks about. The dad wonders if she's ever been in love yet, and how he's going to teach her about love. So that is 15, 16 to me.
Good point.
Or 20.
Average age is 15.
Depends. We don't know. I think the author was very careful to blur that.
Yeah, the author did it so much. The question is, what's the reason? Does it add anything to the story? Like, if you knew her age, would it add anything to the story?
I don't know.
Would it take anything away?
It was fine without it, but it bothered me.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
She has a mobile phone, so that for a young girl to have one, that puts it.
And mobile phones, when did they come out? Like, I didn't have my mobile phone until 96, 95.
And that was mostly adults. So for teenagers having it, you're talking early 2000s.
Yeah.
And she swiped something, so that means a smartphone.
That's later now.
Yeah, I had my Trio 600 in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of work for something that they could have given us with a number.
I'm going to put myself on pause. Annie's, you can edit this out. I have to finish recording outside because it's the time for the next set of people to come in. So I'm going to be carrying my book downstairs. Just, talk without me.
Okay. Oh my goodness, when we're traveling, but we tried to record anyway. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I hadn't put the time scale together and the timeline together, and hadn't thought about it. And as I say, the way she was acting and the way the author was talking about her, I had her young teens at most. But no, if it's a smartphone, then it's got to be 2005, 2006. The wall came down 89, and she was in utero, so she was born in 1990. So yeah, she'd be 16. Yeah, that sort of figures.
2006 could work.
Yeah, the exact age or year doesn't bother me too much. An approximation's good enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't, it didn't bother. It doesn't bother me that I got her age wrong. Yeah, I don't think it affects how I like or dislike the story.
Yeah. Though, going back to what I was saying about we're feeling a lot of emotion. We agree that it's emotionally intense, but I still have that question of, but why, right? And we're saying, because it's his birthday. That feels like another low-hanging fruit thing, like birthdays are difficult, okay? But I feel like each birthday might be difficult for a different reason. And I feel like I still, because it keeps looking back, is it, because he's not that old to be freaking out about death necessarily, right? So I don't think it's that yet. I don't know.
He's 40. 40 is a key age at which time people realise that they're no longer young and they're heading into middle age.
Over the hill.
So yeah, the age of 40 is a big deal. So
Yeah.
I think that's why she's featuring this.
But I agree that it has to be more than just nostalgia and more than just, time moves in all of these interesting ways. And it's my birthday, so I'm thinking about time, right? There needs to be something more than that for us to fall in love with a story. And to me, I guess it was the emotional, the emotional roller coaster of going through this day of his 40th birthday and what happens and what marks the day maybe. I was interested in the story of the tomato because there's sort of the first moment where we see where the party is going and we see the tomato, the salad. We see the daughter Catherine put salad on her plate and it's balls of mozzarella and these small tomatoes, and then we sort of see the tomato. There's something. I think the daughter is popping a tomato in her mouth at some point during the package opening, and then as time slows down, we sort of see. We start to realize that it is the tomato that is like the linchpin of the whole thing. And then the tomato flies out of her mouth across the room, and then she cracks the joke about the caprese salad. It's almost, and a small tomato is like this bouncing red dot. I found myself really thinking about this bouncing red dot through the story, and it also as like a time marker. So I guess I'm a little bit with you, Anais, in that like, okay, lots of time markers. What's the point?
Yeah.
And for me, I think the point is that this is a moment where time is slowing down for this man. And he is marking time in a million ways. And that's what happens when you turn 40.
I actually don't think it was specific to turning 40. I think turning 40 was the backdrop for this particular story. But it seems like his whole life with Henrik is about time. Because Henrik literally tracks everything by timers, metronomes. Time is a constant factor in this man's life. It isn't something very specific to this day especially because it is his birthday and his daughter's coming to visit. That adds an extra element of drama. But in his day-to-day life, he is obsessed with time. You would have to be with somebody who's that obsessed with time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it's a great it's a great thing where it made me laugh. Paul felt something touch his back and turned. Henrik, only 14 seconds. Patted.
Yeah, I thought that was cute. The other part that made me laugh was Henrik gardening in a Speedo so he didn't get his clothes dirty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that really told you the type of man this was. Like that is a character developing sentence if I ever read one. It was great shorthand.
Yeah.
Well, it would be time inefficient to get dressed, go garden, and then need another outfit afterwards, right?
So is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about with this short story? Anything in particular that we haven't touched on?
Yes.
Okay, Rami.
So, a quick commentary about him feeling bad about aging. I think it also didn't help that his younger colleagues teased him with a birthday gift of dentures and called him old man. That's one thing. And then secondly, in the story, he notified the German state secretary, I believe, on his brother. It reminded me of the story of Adolf and Rutter. I'm not. It's pretty fascinating, and I just want to give a quick
Do it, Rami.
history lesson on this. So this originated because I was looking up the origin of the name Adidas because it stood for All Day I Dream About Soccer, or an alternative version is All Day I Dream About Sports. But I found out that this acronym was applied after the company was formed. So it was started by these two brothers in Germany. And first it was kind of just this bootstrapped operation, but then they grew and became successful. But then later on, Adolf Dassler, no, sorry. So the older brother Rudolf was drafted into the German army, and he had suspected his brother of pulling strings in order to get him out of the picture. And then later on, the older brother Rudolf was captured by America. They had been tipped that he was part of the SS, which was the Nazi armed forces. And again, he thought that his brother was behind this. So, but then he was released because he was cleared of all charges. So after that, the two brothers split. And Adolf, he company called Adidas, which stands for Addy. Oh, because Adolf's nickname was Addy, so it became Adidas. And then Rudolf made a separate company called Ruda for his abbreviations, Rudolf Dassler, but then that company was changed to Puma.
Oh, wow.
You went down a rabbit hole.
Fascinating. Rami, game point. Game point. That was fascinating. I wasn't sure where that story was going to go, but you game pointed that in the end. So are we ready to rate this puppy?
Yay.
Okay, you guys, I came into this with a 3.5. Like, I came in thinking it's technically good, it's competently written, but something's missing. But you guys talked me into a much higher rating. I am going to give this a 4.5.
Yay.
It's a lot higher.
Up a whole point.
Yeah.
Good job, Chris.
No, thank you. Sorry, what's the scale? Does it go up to 5 or 6?
Goes to 6.
It goes to 6. Okay. Do you want me to rate?
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
I mean, I almost loved it completely, with only some technical reservations. So I would give it a 5.5.
Okay.
Me too. I'm 5.5.
Okay. I was coming in at a 3 or 3.5. I feel like I'm going to be the lowest rating, but I'm probably a 4. I don't think I'm all the way up to 4.5. And if someone disagrees, blame Elena Ferrante. I'm reading her again, and I think that's affecting me.
Yeah, that ruins it.
And I'll give it a 5.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, so for next week, I am submitting, again, Eddie, you asked me to resubmit this.
Yes.
The 2017 winner for the Carn Awards. The Carn Awards are a award for African short stories in English. And the story that I am submitting is the story of the girl whose birds flew. Yes, I'm really excited. I want to read the story. Come on, you can do this. Oh, I should probably tell you who wrote it. It's Bushra Al-Fadil. It's a story from the Sudan.
Okay. I'm submitting a story that I had submitted a long time ago. We never got it, so I'm doing it again. The Wig by Han Dong. It's in Granta.
Oh, you know I love my Granta. I love Granta.
Oh dear.
We got some good ones.
Rami?
The Monkey's Paw, once again, by W.W. Jacobs.
It's never going to happen. It's been like months of the Monkey's Paw.
Oh my God, yeah. I feel like he submitted it so much, like in my heart. I feel like I've read it, but I haven't.
I don't mind, because then I don't need to search for other stories. So. It works for me.
Christy, do you have a story?
I do. So this is a story that appeared in Time Out magazine, New York Time Out magazine, in 2014. It's titled Marry the Sea. And the author is Marie-Helene Bertino.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay, so today's quiz, you're going to hate it. It's all about time. Yay! Obviously. So, since we have 4 people playing, I've knocked off a couple of multiple choice ones. So you have to guess. You have to get nearest the right answer. So we'll do some quick sums. First question I'll ask. So we'll go, as it is on my screen, Anais, Christy, Maya, Rami. So, starting with Anais, how long does light take to reach us from the sun?
Oh, Lord.
8 minutes, I think. Or is it seconds? It's something. 8 minutes?
Okay. Christy?
Oh my God, I have no idea. I'll say 6 minutes.
Okay. Maya?
I'm going to say 3.5 seconds.
Okay. And Rami? He's timing it.
7.5 minutes.
7.5 minutes. Well, Anais goes into an early lead because it's actually 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Awesome. Awesome. Okay.
If I go first every time, I'm going to set the range every time. Don't always follow my lead, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I like the 8 minutes as a guess. So I just
Yeah, that was a very good guess. Okay, here's question 2. How long did Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin spend on the moon? Anais?
Like outside of the spacecraft, like jumping around?
No. How long were they physically on the moon?
Okay. I don't know. 3 hours.
Okay. Christy?
Gosh, I have all of these number questions. I'm just going to fail. I think it was like 15 minutes.
Okay. Maya? Are you thinking?
Half hour.
Oh, sorry? What did you
She
say?
said half an hour.
Half an hour.
I said
think.
half hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that right?
And Rami?
Half hour?
4 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah, it's cutting in and out. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. Rami is closer. They were actually on the moon for 21 hours.
Oh.
Long time. Okay. Doing well.
Oh, my goodness.
in the book Around the World in 80 Days, how long did it actually take Fogg and Passepartout to go around the world? Anais?
80 days. I don't know. I never read it.
Christy?
Low-hanging fruit.
Can you repeat the question? It cut out a couple times.
Okay. In the book Around the World in 80 Days, how long did it actually take Fogg and Passepartout to travel around the world?
And I guessed 80 days.
80 days, yes.
I guess I can't guess the same as her. I mean, I have no idea. I've never read this book. I'll say 85 days.
Okay. Maya?
Okay. This book, obviously, hijinks ensue because he wouldn't have a book, so I'm assuming there must be, like, fighting in strange islands. So I'm going to guess 90 days.
I keep wondering why.
Rami?
I thought it was 79 days.
Okay. In actual fact, Anais is correct. It was 80 days.
What color is George Washington's white horse?
Right.
That's right. Well, I thought it might be a trick question.
That was just mean. Whoever got that question first was going to win.
I know,
Gerald.
yeah.
Not necessarily. Okay, here you go. How long does it take a North American tadpole to turn into a frog? Anais. 80
Oh,
days.
wow.
1 week.
Okay. Christy?
2 weeks.
Maya?
I was like in second grade catching tadpoles, and I'll say 20 days. That's too long. I'm going to say 20.
And Rami?
We're saying into a full-grown frog.
Correct. Yeah, good point. Yes, into a full-grown frog, not a froglet.
Oh.
8 days.
8 days. No. And in fact, Christy is closer because it is 12 to 16 weeks.
Yay!
Wow.
Oh,
Because I used to catch them when I was
16.
Okay, here's you'll like this one.
my mom kept because I thought I was going to keep scooping them out because they kept dying and I thought they were turning into frogs and hopping out. Yeah, it's pitiful.
I think, didn't Maya win that one though? Because didn't you say 20 days, Maya?
Oh, she did. Sorry.
Funny.
I mean,
Oh,
not
2
to
days.
throw the game or anything, but
Thank you, Christy. Not that you want to read South African literature.
I
you know.
do. Actually, I
Wanna
know
read
that
a story
story
from
and
the
love it. I love that story. I've read it.
Okay, people.
Oh, really?
Here you go. How long does it take to watch every episode of Breaking Bad? Annalise.
540 minutes. What is that? I'm trying to guess by how many seasons. If I got that, but I might be short by 2 seasons. I'm trying to. I've watched them all.
so it's
but-
like 9 hours or
How many
something.
seasons are there?
No clues.
Okay, 4 days.
Oh, crikey. 4 days. Okay.
No,
yeah,
maybe
4
less.
days.
No.
Yeah.
All the seasons.
Yeah, all the
seasons
seasons. All
are there?
the episodes of Breaking Bad. Yes.
Okay.
We're talking about non-stop, right?
Yeah, we're talking about non-stop, yeah.
Because Anais, if you want to
No
stick
sleep,
with
no food.
40 minutes, it's 9 hours.
Oh, 9 hours. I just. Oh yeah, I did it wrong in my head.
Okay.
9 hours doesn't seem right at all. It's not 9
I think
hours.
it's more
not
like
9 hours.
100 hours.
No. It's hold on. I want to do it again in my head. 1 day. Wait. No,
24
there's more than
hours.
20.
I got the calculator. Carry the one.
No, I'm gonna stick with 4 days. 4 days.
Okay.
4 days. Okay. Christy?
100 hours.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not next.
Maya?
That's basically 4 days. 100 hours.
Oh,
A
is
little
it?
more.
No, it's more than 4
Gosh,
days.
I'm trying to figure out. There's like, or is it one of those shows where there's like 23 shows in a season? Been watching Supernatural. That took a long time. It's like 11 seasons. I would say a week. I'm guessing.
A week. 7 days. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Rami?
gonna say 7 days.
101 hours.
101 hours.
That's some right rules over here.
Yep.
Great.
Well, actually, Anais is closest because it is 2 days, 14 hours.
That's it?
Yeah. Thank you to bingeclock.com for that. Yeah.
Gerald spent a lot of time on this quiz.
Oh yeah. You betcha.
Okay.
Okay. Last question.
Sure.
Very last question. How long would it take to watch? How long would it take to watch Star Wars? The 6 episodes plus Force Awakens and Rogue One.
Wait.
Anise.
Director's cut? No.
No.
18 hours.
4.5.
Okay. Christy,
I'll say 20.
20 hours.
Those are long movies.
Maya,
You said 6 episodes. Hello.
cut out. What did you say?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. It sounds like How long would it take to watch all
Can I call my
the
lifeline?
Star Wars films, including Force Awakens and Rogue One, which are sort of the 7th and 8th?
3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, plus an hour for being long. 13 hours.
13 pairs. Okay, Rami.
20.
Nope.
2 hours.
Nope.
Didn't even let you hardly finish this.
Get on. And once again,
Nope.
Anais wins because it would take 17 hours and 40 minutes to watch all the episodes of Star Wars.
I will admit that I had an unfair advantage going first because I got to always get first guess and set the range.
Yeah, but whatever.
No, it's okay. You earned it.
So,
Okay.
So what are we?
Anais.
Okay. We are reading The Wig by Han Don. But before you go, tell us your East Berlin childhood memories and your comments on this story at literaryroadhouse.com. And time's ticking, and if you let it get away from you, you'll forget to leave a review on iTunes. Please leave a review, it helps us a lot. Also, if you enjoyed listening to Christy, there's going to be an interview published for our Patreon subscribers. If you want to get access to that interview, consider becoming a patron. You get to decide how much to contribute, and every bit helps. If you're watching this on YouTube, that won't be live yet. It's when we publish on the website. And as always, share the story with the pianist in your life. Until next time, read a good story.
Do, 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 do.
Hooray.